Hi, welcome to the next edition of Watching the Standard Meta. So, this is a very interesting time period we live in. There is some small switches in the meta that are noticeable, but besides that, there's not a lot to talk about. So let's go ahead and get into it. I have two decks to talk about that I thought were spicy. Keep in mind, some of these decks went 2 and 2 in a challenge, but I thought they were still spicy. So that's what we're talking about today. If you like standard content, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. Let me know in the comment section, because this series is not going away. So even post me leaving a lot of the gameplay of Magic, I still be talking analysis of Magic the Gathering, since I'm still pretty decent at that. So at least playing the card game. So let's get into the meta and then talk about the adjustments, or the two decks that I want to talk about. Let's get into it. So as you see, we have Izzet Prowess 30% in the meta, pretty much almost 31%, and we have Azorius Omniscience at 9.3%. Then we have our Jeskai Oculus deck taking up the remainder of tier 1. I don't know why mono red aggro is tier 2. It's not that big of a difference between these two to really justify the dip, but this did decrease by 2.89%. Now, the deck that I thought was interesting that is getting a little bit of traction is Orzhov Midrange. It's 3.25% increase the past 2 weeks. So it's showing up more in quantity. It's still nowhere near the amount this is. So there obviously must be some sort of, thing had been determined that this actually is pretty reasonable into these top decks, which makes sense. This does have duress and hand disruption and pretty rest in peace, so it can deal with Omniscience and Oculus, and also has pretty good removal for Prowess. So it could adjust itself. Probably has for the current top tier meta decks. Overlord still dipping, Control dipping, Pixie dipping. Orzhov Pixie is getting a little bit of basically picking up what Esper is losing. Besides that, everything else seems to be pretty stationary. It's mainly just Orzhov Midrange is getting a little bit of attraction, and Demure Midrange is almost at 1% increase, but it's only 3/4 of a increase, so there's nothing too big to talk about there. Overall, this meta is very, very unhealthy. Basically, if you add up all the numbers of, honestly, you might add up all these decks right to here or so, and you probably still wouldn't add up to what this deck is doing. So overall, does Standard need a ban? There's definitely a world where I could see that is the case. If it does, that sets huge precedent for Pioneer, because I think the card that would get banned would be Cutter. And Cutter would be, again, that would be a card that you probably could argue should be banned in Pioneer. It is pushing Phoenix to an absurd level of power, because now you don't only have to worry about graveyard heat, you have to also worry about Cutter. So let's get into the two decks I have to talk about. Mardu Aggro. So this deck put up a, I think, 2-2 record in something. It has lizards for, the Cutter matchups. We have a little bit of 1-drops. We have some 2-drops with Arabella. We have Voice of Victory to get Arbabella up. And then we have even Jellicus. Some War Leader's Calls. We have some Rush to get our things buffed, or make 1/1 goblins. This is a very good card. Basically, it's a power creep, the 2-drop that gives you him and a soldier. Just really better than that. Then we have some Delaney's to double trigger. Some Get Lost for spot removal. Tactics for hand disruption. We have Authority of the Consuls for aggro. Burst Lightning for aggro. Potentially also maybe Burn, if it'd be like Tactics, it's just bad. Cut Down for aggro. We have a Truce as a solid way to protect our stuff. Destroy Evil for enchantment hate. Big creature hate. Split Up for aggro. High Noon for combo. And then we have Rest in Peace for the Azorius and Jeskai Oculus deck. So that is the first deck we have to talk about. Second is a deck that I would be playing on the other channel. Or actually on this channel, my bad. This is the standard one. So yeah, it would be appearing on this channel in the end of this season. I will be playing this deck. Super excited about that. It's playing Elspeth with Bruce Tarl, which is why I want to play this deck. Nemesis, Voice of Victory to double the tokens with the Elspeth. Lizard, pretty solid card, like I said, against combo-ish decks like Azorius, Jeskai, stuff like that. We have Helix for aggro, Burst Lightning for aggro, Shelter by Ghost for aggro. We have Get Lost for enchantment hate, Lauren for enchantment hate. Sideboard, we have more Destroy Evil for enchantment hate. We have Rest in Peace for graveyard hate. Get Lost for, enchantments, art, and creatures and planeswalkers hate. Artifact hate, we have a Braid, Brotherhood End. Shelter by Ghost, really good against aggro. Keep in mind, End is really good against Cutter. I mean, you can get rid of 2 or 3 copies of Cutter in one go. We have Liege in case we face Pixie. We have Torch the Tower for a little bit of more removal against early game threats like aggro. Beza for aggro. Sword of Once and Future, probably a more mid-rangey piles. This is pretty decent. Then we have a Chandra, also pretty reasonable for like mid-range and control, where you don't really want to waste your time with a Helix, probably. And that is all we have to talk about for today for Standard. If you want to watch watching the Pioneer meta, I have 4 decks to talk about there. If you like One Piece, we are starting a brand new podcast. Check it out. The first episode is a little bit off with the audio. I think we're gonna address that before we record the second one. So if you're interested in One Piece, go check that out, please. Because there's not really a popular and big One Piece podcast on YouTube. So we're going to try to make it, and I'll talk to you guys next time.